They win it 113-107. Frank, I don't remember ever seeing this group play a more Jekyll-Hyde game of non-competitive basketball and then very competitive
basketball.
basketball.
Made it close in the second quarter, obviously. Should have gone into the locker room only down 5. Chris Paul hit 2 huge shots in the final 38 seconds there. They did cut it to 7 in the last 2 minutes, and Patty Mills on back-to-back possessions had a chance to make it a 4-point game. But make no mistake about it, the Phoenix Suns right now are better than the Brooklyn Nets. All their players are healthy. They're key players. They're playing at a very high level. A team that went to the finals last year and won 2 games off of Milwaukee. This team right now is in midseason form, and it's still only November.
Well, the one thing that stands out, too, the way the Nets did not take care of the ball. I mean, 20 turnovers, that is a horrible night.
Yeah, and a lot of it did start with James Harden, who's been a brilliant player since he's joined the Brooklyn Nets. He had a shocking game tonight. Just wasn't good enough. And I know we got a triple-double, but he's going to tell you, don't put that one in a museum. That was not a classic triple-double. I get it. He was getting other guys involved. But the turnovers, 15 of them they had in the first half. So, you're spending the whole night. Remember, they trailed wire to wire in this game. And I got to be honest with you, I really never felt that the Phoenix Suns were threatened. There were points, even in the fourth quarter, where Monty Williams, I get it, Devin Booker had 5 fouls, but he took him out of the game for a while. I don't think they ever felt that they were going to lose this game. But that's what teams that have won now 16 straight, that's the confidence that they have.
Now, there was one point that I thought, but we're going to get to that as we take a look at the highlights. And it began with the Suns. And remember, they're coming off a back-to-back, and they play back-to-backs really well, and they showed that good energy early.
And look at the passing. Devin Booker to Chris Paul to Jay Crowder. Who's left alone in the corner? Devin Booker. Get the ball, pass, and move. That's what the Phoenix Suns do.
And then here comes Chris Paul into traffic. A little fadeaway, part of a 17-4 run as they continued. And then Landry Shamet against his former team is going to hit a corner 3. So the Suns building a 14-point lead after 1. And then second quarter, the turnover problem continued.
Yeah, I mean, just look at some of these turnovers by the Brooklyn Nets. There you get Mikal Bridges, the kid out of Villanova. He had 6 steals in the first half alone. Just sloppy basketball.
And then this one from Kevin Durant. Again, he had more than his usual allotment.
That's Mikal Bridges once again sticking his hands in. Look at Cam Johnson running the court. Big-time dunk.
Nets down by as many as 20, but a great run before the half. Kevin Durant right here is going to drill a 3 with a hand in his face.
And this was a fun play. And Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, they were on the national team together. They're having a little bit of fun. The Nets made that run. 15 straight points. They cut it to 5. How about this play by DeAndre Bembry?
A great little lay in there as well. Yeah.
He was one of the bright spots.
Now, this was that spot I was talking about, because as they came back, Chris Paul put a little spot.
No, we've been talking about it. Our producer's been talking about it. Instead of going into the locker room down 5, Chris Paul hits the 3. It's an 8-point game. Then final possession of the half, Chris Paul didn't get fouled, but he converts the layup. And now you're going into the locker room down 10 as opposed to 5.
All right, so again, the good news was they're down by 10 instead of 20, and then third quarter, a steal for the Nets. They pushed it up. Harden to Durant. The Nets get within 6.
And Durant really had it going in moments in this game. And Steve Nash played him the entire second half. They did not give up on this game, to the Nets' credit.
And you talk about sharing the ball. Good vision right there to get that pass to Jay Crowder, and then another Nets turnover. Harden again.
Yeah, and this one, the crowd started booing. It's just sloppy turnovers, not taking care of his dribble. And there, Devin Booker gets the shooter's bounce.
Later, Chris Paul is going to hit a 3. We talked about him as more of an assist guy on the pregame, but he hit his shots tonight, 87-70 at that point. But again, the Jekyll-Hyde nature of this game, as they go into the fourth quarter, they were outscored, by the way, 34-26 in the third. They're hanging around here.
And again, this is Steve Nash having Harden and Durant both on the court to start the fourth quarter. DeAndre Bembry just working hard, outworking the Phoenix Suns, and he gets rewarded on the putback.
And then Harden right down the middle. He got a little more aggressive there as time went away, and they chipped the lead to 7.
But here you go. Here's Chris Paul. It gets blocked. And look at Patty Mills running to the corner. Pump fake. Devin Booker flies by. Patty Mills can make that shot. He hits that. Now you're talking a 4-point game with a minute to go.
And then Booker with the miss, but Crowder right there to get in and clean it up. And again, the Suns winning it 113-107. Nets only took 23 three-pointers. They only hit 7 of them. And again, 20 turnovers leading to 20 points. That tied a season high in turnovers. And you talked about some of the stats sort of belying what happened, that Harden had the triple-double. Yeah. That's the good thing, but it didn't look like that. And for Kevin Durant, 39 points, 13 of 28. But there were some shots that he took that normally he hits in his sleep and they didn't go.
Absolutely. I think he was working really hard. I think he'll be disappointed with the result, obviously, in this game. But if you go back to the turnovers, now they only had 5 in the second half, which is good, but 20 is way too many. Look at how many more shots the Phoenix Suns took than the Brooklyn Nets. Again, wire-to-wire victory for a team playing the second night of a back-to-back. No travel involved because they played in Manhattan last night, like we talked about. But this is a team, what a roll they're on. 16 straight wins for a team that was in the finals. They're legit. And here's the crazy thing. The Golden State Warriors are in first place in the Western Conference. That's how good they've been. So now we've had the Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, the Miami Heat all come to Brooklyn and have all won. And then the Nets have gone to Chicago and lost. So the top 2 teams in the West, they've lost to at home. And then the second and third place teams in the East, they haven't beaten either.
Is part of that the fact that some guys are missing? Obviously, Kyrie 100%. Has not played, but there's 100%. No Nick Claxton, etc. Absolutely.
And first of all, the Brooklyn Nets have the best player on the court. That's Kevin Durant. And James Harden will be better. Tonight was not a good night for him. But the Phoenix Suns have everything working right now. They're bringing Cam Johnson off the bench, Cameron Payne off the bench, all their role players, Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges. You have Booker playing like an all-star. You have Chris Paul playing like an all-star. And the Nets roster, yes, their 2 stars are there, but they're missing other pieces. And I think on a night like tonight, when you have a team that is that fine-tuned, the Nets really didn't stand a chance. I give them credit for making a run, but I never felt after the first quarter, well, you mentioned it, when Chris Paul made those 2 shots, that you really felt like they were threatened again.
Right. Well, Devin Booker was the guy who really set the pace for the Suns in this one. And, you know, when we don't get to see Western Conference teams much, you don't get a real feel for the player, but he put a lot on display tonight.
All right, so Devin Booker had 12 points in the first quarter before James Harden and Kevin Durant even scored in this game. They were searching for the game, and Devin Booker already had 12 points. And I mentioned it in the pregame. I'm not saying he's Kobe Bryant, but he does things out there that remind you of Kobe. He attacks the basket. He's a fierce competitor. This guy is turning into an absolute superstar. You know he can knock down shots. So I'm going to put him the ball on the floor right there, getting to the basket. And here, such a good shooter that he gets a bit of a bounce and a roll, and it falls for him.
And they dedicate taller, longer defensive guys on him. That doesn't seem to affect him
at all. And then how many times late in the game, when there was a switch, they're throwing the ball inside to either DeAndre Ayton or JaVale McGee, and the Nets were getting exploited with the mismatch.
All right, so Devin Booker ends up with 30, and Chris Paul with 22. That's well above his season average, so he found a rhythm as well.
And then look, all right, so Devin Booker, 30 points on 18 shots. James Harden, 12 points on 15 shots. Kevin Durant, 39 points on 28 shots. A little different.
Yeah, and for Harden, what was going on there? Because he goes through these spurts where he gets very aggressive, takes over a game. He's able to dictate what happens and make his shots. That didn't seem to happen tonight.
I think it was a poor game for him all the way around against a very active and athletic team. Mikal Bridges, he's got incredibly long arms. He's active on the defensive end. You have, Devin Booker gets after it, as does Chris Paul. They're physical. And I think the rules, and we know in this game, we're watching it, and guys are getting hit, and you're saying last year they would have called a foul there. And I think guys like Chris Paul have really benefited from that because Chris Paul is a physical, tough defender who works the refs the entire game. To his credit, he knows how to, he knows how to draw fouls. He knows how to talk to the referees. They just have, to me right now, they're just at a different level than the Brooklyn Nets. And I think a lot of it has to do with their entire roster is healthy and everyone's playing at a high level.
All right, one guy who was a bright spot for the Nets tonight, DeAndre Bembry. Yeah. He ends up with 18 points and 9 rebounds. What did you think of his game?
Remember last season when Bruce Brown was doing a lot of this? Just cut to the basket. James Harden, Kevin Durant will find you. Just be aggressive. Run the floor. Here he jumps into the passing lane and makes a really difficult shot in traffic. That was terrific by him. And then again, just driving to the basket. That looks like Bruce Brown from last season. It really does. And that's what they need, that kind of energy that DeAndre Bembry could give them. And if he's going to play like this, cutting to the floor, here he makes a great pass, gets himself back into it. Look at him battling against Ayton and knocking down what was a pretty difficult shot. If he's going to play like that, he's going to get minutes because Steve Nash wants guys out there that are going to run hard, cut to the basket, play with energy.
All right, we're going to